Hey there, I'm Kristen Caven. I am this year's California Writers Club Writer in Residence up at Joaquin Miller Park. This is the view from the fire circle up there, which I have a very special announcement about at the end of this little presentation. The California Writers Club and Joaquin Miller Park have a very interesting intertwined history. Friends of the internationally beloved poet Joaquin Miller, who lived on this land for his last 3 decades, founded the CWC and arranged for the Heights, which is his misspelled home, to become a city park in 1919, dedicating the Cascade that was built by the WPA in 1941. The CWC has been a member of the Friends of Joaquin Miller Park since it began. It's a group of stakeholders that all take care of the park. I am the first writer in residence, as far as I know, since Juanita Miller died. She was Joaquin Miller's daughter, and she worked with the CWC to bring the WPA project into the park. I hope that I'm the first of many writers in residence up here. It's a beautiful place to come up and work. This is a little scene from the ranger station where the smiling fox lives. So I'm a writer. I'm the co-author of several parenting and psychology books. I've written 3 memoirs. I write cartooning and comedy. I'm a playwright and a lyricist. I'm an essayist and a blogger. I'm also past president of the California Writers Club, Berkeley branch, and won the Jack London Award for service. I'm also an Oaklander. My husband is a teacher at Horace Mann Elementary. I've been a mom and a parent leader, working in parent organization in 4 different schools. And my swan song was as a PTA president at Oakland Tech. My first published work was about the Mills strike in 1990. I wrote a cartoon journal that was awarded at the Bay Area Guardian Cartoon Contest, and a panel of which hangs in the Women's Museum in Dallas, Texas. My play Bemused about Lake Merritt was performed at the Pergola, and my Oktoberfest play, The Journal Diaspora, was performed as a movie during COVID. It was probably the first online Oktoberfest celebration anywhere in the world. I also wrote the Joaquin Miller song, which you're going to learn about in a little bit. Oh, also, one of my proudest moments was winning the Lit Cake contest by the California Writers Club with my famous HAL 2000 cake. So my goals as the writer in residence have been to write in the park, to host literary events, to complete a project, and to lend my voice to the park. I'm also working on establishing this program for future years and finding funding for it to continue. This will be a position that will be offered to somebody who has been a member of the CWC for 2 years and who has done volunteer service. So far, so good. I'm going to tell you about it, starting with my writing. So I go up there once a week with my laptop, and I find a place to write. Sometimes in the ranger station, sometimes it's at a beautiful picnic table, and sometimes I'm just tired and I write in my car at a beautiful overlook. I'm going to show you what I do every week. I write a blog called Walking with Joaquin, Walk-in with Joaquin. And sometimes I take a walk with someone. This was a walk I took with the founder of Segurate. Sometimes I go on an adventure. Last week I went and I reported on a fire and I talked to firemen. Sometimes I just write about what I see. I do service to the park. And sometimes I contemplate history. And it's always something different. You can subscribe to my blog right here. get blog posts emailed to you. It's also feeds onto the Friends of Joaquin Miller Park page and my own web page right here, Kristen Caven. And you can translate it into any language. So I've done a number of literary events already, and I plan to do more. The first thing that happened was I helped form an arts committee. This is an email you can reach me at, arts@Friends of Joaquin Miller Park, with visual artists and landscapers. And we worked on creating a series of events called Art in the Park. So I've got the literary end of that. And I've hosted some readings and some classes. I do retreats and drawing parties I'm going to tell you about. One event that I'd like to institute and make it an annual event is a blanket and a basket of chow. That's what Joaquin Miller's friends used to call it, including Jack London and Ina Coolbrith and Bret Hart. They would just bring a picnic up at the park and do fun things, hijinks. In 2003, the California legislature declared the third week of October as California Writers Week. So I would like to create an annual event that is a city event where all writers in the city are welcome to come up and share things from different writer circles, different writing organizations, and celebrate the history and the present and the future of the park. The first one was really wonderful. It was called From Ina to Ayodele, and we did a reading with 5 poets and writers who read the work of 5 of the poets and writers who created the park. We read the work of Joaquin Miller, as well as George Sterling and Jack London and Yoni Noguchi, who was part of the history of the park. Ina Coolbrith was California's first poet laureate, and her work was read by Ayodele, Wordslanger Nzinga, Oakland's first poet laureate. There was this magical moment where I was talking about how Ina was crowned with a garland of California poppies, and then my words were drowned out by the roaring of the Blue Angels flying overhead. And Ayodele raised her hands and said, "What a great salute." And so that's how her work was introduced. And you can go to my blog and search for Ina or Ayodele, and you can find a recording of her reading a poem by Ina that was just so moving and magical. Everybody got goosebumps. It was just one of those moments that only poetry can give you, and only poetry by great poets, which we're fortunate to have some of walking around, larger than life. Speaking of which, here's a poetry workshop that I hosted in the spring with Paul Corman Roberts, one of the founders of Beast Crawl. This is the room where I do a lot of writing, and there's a blog post that gives you a tour of everything in this room, but you have to come up and see it yourself. The floor is uneven, but the vibe is great. It's a really great place to get words out. I host a monthly writing retreat. I invite everyone in Oakland to come up and write in the park. By the way, you're going to tell me that's spelled wrong. Once again, that was Joaquin Miller's affectation. He was a big old goof as well as a very moving romantic poet. So far, so good. All right, let's see. Writing, hosting, working on a project. So my project this year is called Joaquin Miller Went Walkin', and it is a children's book based on a song I wrote when I went on a field trip with Oakland kids and said, why isn't there a song about Joaquin Miller? So there is a scavenger hunt that you can find if you go up to the park and you get one of the kids' envelopes, or if you stop in at the ranger station, there's a pile of them there on the counter. And go out and see what you can find. It's a hunt of all of the things that are listed in this song. You can make a sketch of it, draw it with your kids, and then you can return them in an envelope, or you can come to one of the drawing parties. I'm hosting monthly drawing parties on the last Sundays of every month. So this book is a community art project. I'll be using my cartoons in it. I'm a cartoonist, but I will also be featuring the artwork of Oaklanders. There's going to be a collage type of effect when we put all the art together. And it's very much like Oakland, a very eclectic mix of different styles and energies, but somehow it's going to work all together in the 32-page spread. Another project I'm working on is a tree project. We want to plant a tree for Ayodele. And so in walking around and trying to find places for plantings with, this is Dale Risden in the middle. He's the president of the Friends of Joaquin Miller Park. Also joining us that day was Tim Bedlinski, who is the acorn guy, an oak evangelist who works with Friends of Saucil Creek. And this is Amos White, who's the founder and chief planting officer at 100,000 Trees for Humanity, which started in Alameda during COVID and is growing into a worldwide community planting organization, because planting trees is one of the only ways we're going to be able to stop climate change or slow it down for the kids for the future. So we walked all over the park and looked for ideas of places where we can honor writers and create spaces for writing. Well, where we finally came to was the Writers Memorial Grove, which is part of the WPA project in 1941. Each of the trees that was planted in this grove was planted in honor of a writer, or a writer who was either well-known or who was part of the California Writers Club. We're going to find a tree somewhere in this cascade for Ayodele. And we're going to create a program for honoring writers in the future. But as you can see from this photo taken not long ago, these trees are very stressed out. So part of my work here is going to be to get the cascade flowing again. Redwoods are river trees, and when they were planted, there was a river running down this hillside. It was turned off about 10 years ago or so. People were worried about the drought, but it is with recycled water. And it was turned off for a short time and then it dried out. And so the cascade has been restored in the lower part of the park, but we need to get the river flowing again. It's just a beautiful wonderland for taking kids up there. Poster that I made, we thought we would be able to start the flow again, but it hasn't happened yet. So this is still my goal. So I have a couple of other goals that I'm still working on. I'll be doing a storytelling event on Earth Day at the end of this April. In 2023, I hope to be doing a book launch of Joaquin Miller Went Walking. But a couple other things have come to my attention. The Joaquin Miller Wikipedia page needs rewriting. Another thing I'm trying to do is create a collective of poets who spend time in park writing every week up there with the California Writers Club. And finally, the fire circle. Fires are kind of discouraged up in the park now for obvious reasons. And that's going to be rebuilt as a stage area called the California Writers Circle.
Joaquin Miller went walking. Joaquin Miller went walking. Joaquin Miller went walking. Walking through the Oakland Hills. See? It's very simple. The little kids, you guys can sing that, right?
I know it. I know it already.
So, as Stephanie mentioned, I was inspired to write this by a teacher here in the Oakland schools. We have some great teachers here in the Oakland schools. Let's hear it for the teachers in the Oakland schools.
So thank you for connecting with me. Come up and write with me on a third Wednesday. Subscribe to my blog. You can go to my website. Here's a little peek of it. KristenCaven.com, and all my social media. You can follow me in all the places. You can also subscribe to my blog or my newsletter and keep up with what I'm working on. So thank you very much for watching this little presentation. I hope to see you out in the woods. Sail on.
Miller went walking and loved the beauty of the Oakland Hills.